Okay, I think I got everything. Yeah. Sometimes I just want to sit, I just want to sit. I like to be, when I'm doing something like this, I like to just be personable. And what I'm going to talk about today is it's just like if you just sit down and having a conversation with someone. Thank you, Dina, for accommodating these last minute requests. I didn't want to stand up there. Sometimes you just stand up there and you just feel like you're just so far away from everybody. You're way up there and everybody's down. Oh, I'm good with that. So anyway, no explanations. I'm just going to go right into it. The meaning of being a decent human being. The meaning of being a decent human being. I'm going to explore that. To be a decent human being is not simply to obey laws or avoid harming others. Decency is a moral and emotional orientation toward the world. It is the daily practice of recognizing the humanity of other people, responding to suffering with compassion, listening with empathy, sharing joy, expressing gratitude, and imagining a future in which all people can live with dignity and peace. In an age marked by division, inequality, and conflict, decency is not a small virtue. It is a foundation for a humane society. Compassion is one of the clearest signs of decency. Compassion means more than feeling sorry for someone. It involves a willingness to act to alleviate suffering when possible. A compassionate person notices the lonely neighbor, the struggling parent, the grieving friend, and the stranger facing hardship. Compassion recognizes that every person carries burdens that may be invisible to others. It asks us to respond not with judgment, but with care. History offers countless examples of compassionate individuals who transformed communities through simple acts of kindness. These acts may appear small: a meal shared, a comforting conversation, a helping hand, but they affirm powerful truth. Human beings are interconnected. Closely related to compassion is empathy, the ability to imagine another person's experience. Empathy requires listening deeply and suspending the assumption that our own perspective is the only valid one. Though empathy differences in race, religion, through empathy, differences in race, religion, nationality, gender, and culture become opportunities for understanding rather than barriers. When people practice empathy, conflicts often become less destructive because individuals begin to recognize the fears, hopes, and needs that others carry. Empathy does not mean agreement with every viewpoint. It means acknowledging the humanity of the person holding it. A society rich in empathy is less likely to dehumanize, scapegoat, or ignore those who are vulnerable. Joy is another essential element of decency. Joy is not the absence of suffering, rather it is the capacity to celebrate life despite suffering. Decent people create joy for others. They encourage, laugh, share stories, make music, cook meals, teach children, and help others discover beauty. Joy is profoundly social. When we rejoice in another person's success instead of envying it, We strengthen the bonds that hold communities together. Joy reminds us that human life is not merely a series of problems to solve, it is also an opportunity to experience wonder, creativity, friendship, and love. Gratitude deepens both joy and compassion. A grateful person recognizes that much of what makes life meaningful comes through relationships, opportunities, and gifts that cannot be fully earned. Gratitude counters the illusion of complete self-sufficiency. It encourages humility and generosity. When people appreciate what they have, they are often more willing to share. Gratitude also shifts attention away from constant dissatisfaction and toward recognition of what is good and sustaining. This does not require ignoring injustice or hardship. Rather, it means refusing to let bitterness become the sole lens through which life is viewed. The ability to imagine a world of unity, peace, and plenty for all is perhaps the most ambitious aspect of decency. Cynicism is easy. History provides many reasons to doubt that humanity can overcome violence, greed, and division. Yet every major moral advance, from movements for civil rights to efforts to reduce poverty and expand education, begin with people who imagined a better world than the one they inherited. Imagination is not escapism, it is the source of possibility. When we envision societies where resources are shared more fairly, where conflicts are resolved through dialogue rather than domination, and where every person has access to food, shelter, healthcare, and education, we create a moral direction for collective action. A world of peace and plenty does not mean a world without differences. Human diversity is inevitable and valuable. Unity does not require uniformity. Instead, unity means recognizing that our common humanity outweighs the divisions that often separate us. Peace is not merely the absence of common humanity, and let me correct that. Peace is not merely the absence of war, it is the presence of justice, opportunity, and mutual respect. Plenty is not limitless consumption, it is a social order in which basic needs are met and human potential can flourish. Decency also requires courage. It is not enough to hold compassionate feelings privately. There are moments when being decent means speaking against cruelty, defending those who are marginalized, and resisting systems that treat people as disposable. Courageous decency may involve personal risk, inconvenience, or criticism. Yet, without such courage, compassion remains sentiment rather than action. Importantly, decency is not perfection. Human beings are flawed. We lose patience, make mistakes, and sometimes fail to live up to our ideals. A decent person is not someone who never errs, but someone who is willing to reflect, apologize, learn, and grow. Humility is therefore part of decency. It allows us to recognize our limitations and remain open to correction. In everyday life, decency is expressed through ordinary choices, how we treat workers, strangers, family members, and those with whom we disagree. whether we listen before responding, whether we share credit and resources, whether we notice suffering and respond, whether we cultivate gratitude instead of resentment. These choices accumulate. They shape homes, workplaces, neighborhoods, and nations. Ultimately, being a decent human being means living as though every person possesses inherent worth. It means extending compassion where there is pain, empathy where there is misunderstanding, joy where there is despair, gratitude where there is abundance, and imagination where there is cynicism. The dream of a world united in peace and shared prosperity may seem distant, but it begins in the character of individuals. Decency is not a grand abstract ideal reserved for heroes. It is a daily practice available to all of us. And through it, we participate in the creation of a more humane future. The following poems are by men and women from diverse backgrounds whose work reflects compassion, empathy, joy, gratitude, unity, peace, hope, and the dignity of all people. Because many of these poems are copyrighted, I provide brief excerpts, kept short, and summarize, just summaries rather than full text. The public domain works are identified accordingly. So, Maya Angelou, right here in the United States, African American. She wrote a poem called Human Family, and she wrote, "We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike." And the theme of that was unity, empathy, shared humanity. And why does it fit with what I just spoke about? Because Angelou emphasizes the common dignity of all people across cultures and differences. Langston Hughes, African-American man, born in the United States, he had a poem called "I Dream a World." And in that poem, he wrote, "I dream a world where man, no other man, will scorn." And the poem was called I Dream a World, and the theme was peace, equality, and hope. And it fits here because Hughes imagines a world free from prejudice and oppression. Rabindranath Tagore, I might have said that wrong, but that's the best I could do, from Bengali, India. And he wrote a poem called "Where the Mind is Without Fear." And he wrote, "Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high." And his theme was freedom, unity, human flourishing. And it fits here because Tagore envisions a society guided by truth, dignity, and compassion. Naomi Shihab Nye, Palestinian American woman. She wrote a poem called "Kindness." And she wrote, "Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things." Her theme was compassion, empathy, and human connection. And she fits here because the poem explores how suffering can deepen compassion for others. Walt Whitman, I like to say European American rather than putting a color. We're either European descent or some other descent or African American, but I like European. So Walt Whitman, European American. He had a poem called "Song of Myself." And he wrote, "For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you." And the theme was shared humanity, joy, democratic spirit. And it fits here because Whitman celebrates the interconnectedness of all people. Mary Oliver, European American woman, she wrote a poem called Wild Geese. And she wrote, "You do not have to be good." I guess that could be like, you don't have to be perfect, but you don't have to, it doesn't have to be good. The theme here is acceptance, compassion, belonging. And it fits here because Oliver offers a gentle vision of human worth and belonging within the larger world. Oh my. Dalal al-Din Rumi, Persian man, he wrote a poem called The Guest House. And he said, "This being human is a guest house. Like we are just passing through. And we're borrowing everything that we are using and that we claim is ours. We are just borrowing it. Nothing goes with us." So, the guest house. And the theme here is compassion, acceptance, and spiritual openness. The next one is from Joy Harjo, Native American woman from the Muskogee Nation. And her poem is called Remember. And her writings is "Remember the sky that you were born under." That humbles you. Remember the sky that you were born under. Her themes are gratitude, interconnectedness, and respect for life. And it fits here because Harjo invites readers to remember their connection to all living things. Pablo Neruda from Chile. And his poem is titled Keeping Quiet. "Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still." That's part of his poem. Count to 12, and we'll all keep still. And his themes are peace, reflection, global solidarity. And it fits here because Neruda imagines a pause in human conflict that could lead to understanding. Amanda Gorman, African American woman, her poem titled The Hill We Climb. And she wrote, "For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it." Her theme, unity, hope, collective responsibility. And it fits here because Gorman's poem calls for courage, reconciliation, and shared progress. One of the poems, I went through my library at home. I have a big library, and I was looking through it, and I was stopped at this book here. It says The Force of Kindness, and it's written by Sharon Salzberg. Change your life with love and compassion. And I was going through it just to see if I can get a little bit more wisdom. And Spirit stopped me at a page. And I started reading, and it was one poem in the book. And as I read it, I said, "Oh my God, this sounds familiar. This is one of the poets I have in my writings." And I remembered it because of her one verse, her one theme. I said, okay, I'm not making copies. I'm not giving them out. This came out of my book. I can read it to the congregation, and it won't be a copyright thing. I'm not telling anybody I made it up. And oh my goodness, I have a poem, so I'm actually going to read her whole poem. It's very short, but here it is. And then the rest of them, they're just, yeah. But anyway, the one that said about kindness, That was the title of her poem. And it was by Naomi Shihab Nye. And she was the woman from Palestine. So this is what she wrote. Before you know what kindness really is, you must lose things. Feel the future dissolve in a moment like salt in a weakened broth. What you held in your hand, what you counted and carefully saved, all this must go so you know how desolate the landscape can be between the regions of kindness. How you ride and ride, thinking the bus will never stop. The passengers eating maize and chicken will stare out of the window forever. Before you learn the tender gravity of kindness, you must travel where the Indians in a white poncho lie dead by the side of the road. You must see how this could be, how he too was someone who journeyed through the night with plans and the simple breath that kept him alive. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow, you must speak to it till your voice, you must speak to it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows and you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to mail letters and purchase bread. Only kindness that raises its head from the crowd of the world to say, it is I you have been looking for, and then goes with you everywhere like a shadow or a friend. Together, these poets, men and women from different ethnic, national, and cultural backgrounds, offer a collective vision of what it means to be deeply human. They speak of kindness, empathy, gratitude, shared dignity, peace, and the hope that humanity can create a more just and abundant world. Their voices differ in style and experience, yet they converge on a common insight. Our lives are bound together, and the flourishing of one person is connected to the flourishing of all. Thank you. That's all I got.